What's going on, guys? We are back with another breakdown of The Wire, this time for Season 1, Episode 9, Game Day. We've already broken down the first 8 episodes of Season 1. We got the links pinned in the comment section, so check those out if you haven't yet. We ended Episode 8 with Omar ambushing and killing Stinkum while wounding Weebay. We open up this episode with Avon and Stringer scouting a talented junior college basketball player. It's time for the annual East Side versus West Side basketball game, and Avon is tired of losing to the East Side, which is led by a drug dealer named Proposition Joe, so it's time to recruit. The conversation then pivots to Omar, and when Stringer says that he's nowhere to be found, Avon gets pissed. Stringer is still pushing to call a truce and then backstab Omar. Avon hates that idea since every day that Omar roams free only makes Avon look weaker. The workout ends and payment details are hashed out with the Hooper and his coach. $10K to the player, $5K to the junior college, and $5K to the coach for making it all happen. To Avon, spending $20K for bragging rights over the East Side is more than worth it.
Avon spending cash like this just showcases his aggressive mentality and the fact that he kind of does run shit around here. There's also a deeper reflection on Avon and Stringer's philosophies. String is the man with the research and analysis. Avon always brings passion, a desire to show strength, and grit. Based on what we know and the schools looking at him, this kid is close to a 5-star prospect. I love how pressed the coach looks during that shoot around and the sleaziness that he constantly oozes. This guy is spending that $5K on cheap booze and whatever he owes to his bookie to avoid a broken leg. This is obviously pre-NIL, so this kid is playing the field and finding the best offer under the table. This is the era of the he got game type of recruiting process, which is an all-time classic for anyone who enjoys quality movies or Ray Allen's Jumper.
So let's start this video by seeing what the Barksdale Task Force has been up to. They continue to monitor the wire and pick up a convo where Ronnie Moe is coordinating a cash pickup with Weebay. Ever since Stringer had the pit payphones ripped out, the pit crew has had to walk farther away to find a new payphone. Carver hits D's pager and they track D to where the new payphone will be. Now they can get a wiretap up on this one. The next thing the team does is start following the money. In the last episode, the Barksdale Task Force discovered that drug money has been flowing into the pockets of local politicians. This prompts Lester Freeman to do some forensic accounting work. The first thing he wants to do is find out what other businesses are owned by the Barksdale gang. They'll start with Orlando's nightclub, which is owned by a company called D&B Enterprises. Prez will then head to the state corporate charter office and look up D&B Enterprises. This will get them information on every shareholder, corporate officer, and most importantly, the registered agent who is responsible for filing paperwork for the company. The registered agent is typically a lawyer. As expected, the lawyer responsible for D&B Enterprises corporate filing is none other than Maurice Levy's company. Next up, they can search up all of the companies that Levy has filed corporate charters for. This allows them to find all of the other front companies that the Barksdale gang has. Now, there is a slim chance that the Barksdales could have used different lawyers to file different charters, but it's much more typical to stick with the same lawyer. There's a trust factor there. While Prez is looking at Barksdale front businesses, Sidnor will look at any properties owned by the gang, specifically in an area called Reservoir Hill, since McNulty has heard that Avon owns an apartment building up there. Using the information that Prez gets him, company names, corporate officers, etc., Sidnor can look at properties and see if any of these same names pop up. For example, let's say Sidnor finds a building owned by D&B Enterprises. That's a direct connection to the Barksdales. Basically, any property that is owned by a Barksdale-related person or corporation needs to be recorded down. Right now, Freeman is trying to build a money trail that involves properties and businesses, since all this stuff is being funded by illegal drug money. While Prez and Sidnor are busy with this, Freeman will be digging through political donation records. If he can find a link between Barksdale drug money and political contributions, then this case will be even bigger than they thought.
The continued Prez and Freeman mentorship warms my heart. Lester is a much better influence than these two bozos. The whole strategy is Freeman's signature move. Think smarter, not harder. Melvin Williams' crew actually used 4 Keys Enterprises Incorporated as the front corporation for their own business dealings back in the day. This also included things like apartment buildings and the other businesses we've mentioned previously. Prez pulling all this off, going old school with the charter document research, shows some real grit. Sidnor is also good at rolling with the punches. You just gotta trust somebody who has the charisma and intellect of Lester.
The rest of the team is still staking out the towers and waiting for the cash pickup between Weebay and Ronnie Moe. Their plan is to pull Weebay over and confiscate the money. McNulty reminds Herc and Carver to pull them over far away from the towers because they don't want to risk the Barksdales suspecting that they have a wire on the tower payphones. Herc and Carver do as told, cuffing Weebay and Savino while searching the car. They don't find any drugs or weapons, but they do find the trash bag full of cold hard cash. Obviously, it's not illegal to have a bunch of cash, but the team can confiscate it, and if the Barksdales want it back, they'll need to explain to the state's attorney where they got it from.
What money?
Obviously, the Barksdales aren't going to bother doing this. The team is basically trying to fuck things up by interrupting the money delivery and seeing if anyone ends up making a mistake. But the Barksdale gang is making so much money that they won't care if 20 grand goes missing. Weebay and Savino drive off without an issue.
Yeah, and this is similar to the move they pulled against Day Day last ep. Respect that Burrell didn't put a scare into the team as far as what tactics they're using, and whatever involvement Clay Davis has in this scheme, clearly the protection only extends to his immediate associates like Day Day, and not to the rank and file members of Avon and String's direct crew.
As Herc and Carver bring the money back to the station, Herc hints that maybe they should keep some of the money. I mean, I don't blame Herc, man. You could easily skim 5 to 10 grand off that. Shit, I'll be honest with you guys, I'd 100% be doing that myself. But Carver reminds Herc, there's a wiretap running. Let's say they report 20 grand, but then on the wiretap, the Barksdale gang members mention that they lost 30 grand today to the cops. It would be obvious that Herc and Carver kept 10 grand to themselves. It's a tricky situation.
Didn't think of that, did you?
And this is funny because it's not like Carver is morally superior to Herc, he's just got way more situational awareness. Moments like this also remind you of just how widespread corruption is and was in a lot of city police departments at this time. David Simon always maintained that the war on drugs was essentially a failure that created opportunities for corruption and few solutions to heal the communities that were impacted.
Fighting the war on drugs, one brutality case at a time.
So, the initial findings show that Avon might own some low-rent commercial properties, mostly vacant right now. Herc and Carver bring the money back and mention that it could be 20 or 30. Did these guys end up skimming? McNulty also tells Daniels that they need to get a 30-day wiretap on the new payphone that the Pit Boys are using. Daniels is watching all of this and is struggling internally. On one hand, he wants to work the case. On the other hand, his bosses hate his guts right now, so following the money and breaking this case might destroy his career, and even worse, might land him in jail. If Burrell happens to have some dirt on him from the past, Daniels is fucked.
Chen's spot on. Daniels wants a charge on Avon so badly because he needs to give Burrell what he wants. Fast forward a few months from now and he can still maintain a safe distance from McNulty and Phelan's power move. If they keep sniffing around on the cash, that trail will lead to a place that Daniels probably doesn't want to touch. A charge on Avon is Daniels' last chance at having his cake and eating it too.
Later on, Herc and Carver are listening to the wiretap, and we hear Poot having phone sex with some girl. There's some real nasty talk going on. None of it drug related, and by rule, 90 seconds of non-pertinent conversation means you can't listen anymore. But that's not going to stop these two goons, so they keep listening and laughing. At the end of the call, Poot actually mentions something that is pertinent. He tells the girl that Wallace has been fucked up ever since the Brandon murder, and Poot is worried that Wallace is now getting high. McNulty hears the Wallace part, and the wheels start turning.
Absolutely heinous things for Poot to say out loud. He might just have the worst instincts of anybody in the Barksdale crew. Ironic that Herc and Carver's lack of discipline clues them into Poot's lack of discipline and makes them accidentally uncover a lead in the process. If we go back to the chess metaphor from earlier this season, a few of the breaks we've seen in the case can be connected to the pawns on the board. They don't seem like an important piece at first, but their moves do add up. Also hilarious how even McNulty chastises them about the wiretap rules, yet does not stop listening.
You gotta justify that.
Maybe 3 hoes was the code for 3 stash houses.
So, in the last episode, Lester came up with the idea of interrogating Shardene and seeing if she knows anything. He and Kima find her and bring her in for questioning. Although she's clearly nervous, she does bond a little bit with Lester over his dollhouse furniture. The quality is quite excellent, I must say. Things get more intense when the actual interrogation starts. Shardene claims that she doesn't know anything, she's only been working at Orlando's for 4 to 5 months, she's mostly a B-girl, which means she chats up patrons to get them to buy drinks, she doesn't dance or do drugs or have sex for money. Shardene's being standoffish for obvious reasons, talking to police is dangerous when you're in her position, but everything changes when Kima and Lester take Shardene to see Keisha's dead body. Remember in the last episode, Shardene was asking Dee about Keisha, and Dee told her that he didn't know anything. Apparently, Keisha was rolled up in a rug and thrown in a dumpster. The toxicology reports found heroin and cocaine in her body, along with semen from 3 different guys. A tearful Shardene mentions that the lying motherfucker said they took her to a hospital. She's most likely referring to Dee. The sight of Keisha's body is enough to get Shardene on the task force's side. Shardene tells Lester about her relationship with Dee, and she wants to quit her job at Orlando's. Lester says she can't quit right now. They need her eyes and ears in order to bring the whole thing down. He even gives her one of the dollhouse miniatures that she likes, and this makes Shardene feel a little better. Towards the end of the episode, we see Shardene take all of her stuff and move out of Dee's place. When Dee wonders why she's leaving, she brings up Keisha and then storms out.
I don't look like something you could roll up in a rug and throw in the trash.
The miniature furniture symbolizes that Shardene's not really a schemer. She's good at heart and isn't that far removed from childlike innocence. You can tell Lester is softening her up. He's playing good cop at the moment. I don't believe anything Lester does is unplanned. The mood shifts immensely once that door closes when Kima and Lester both lock in. There's some interesting commentary here on how the Barksdale crew has sort of dehumanized these girls that run through Orlando's spot. This is what sets Shardene off more than anything else because of how close to home it hits. Lester does have a point. These are some absolutely ruthless cats at the end of the day.
Okay, so this episode is called Game Day, and we finally find out why. Herc and Carver are posted at the rooftops doing routine surveillance, but the towers are empty. They drive around and notice that the whole neighborhood is quiet. What's going on? Finally, they stumble upon a massive crowd watching a basketball game. We already see the recruited JUCO player putting in work. He's blocking shots, catching lobs, and Avon is fucking pumped. Money well spent. The opposing team has their fair share of ringers as well. One of the guys played pro in Italy. We finally get to see Proposition Joe, who's a fat man in a full suit. While Herc and Carver are enjoying the game, they notice Bodhi and Poot there as well. Looks like everyone is on break, both the cops and the pushers. Bodhi explains that this is the annual Westside vs Eastside game, and the loser has to pay for a big party. Eastside has won the last 2 years, and Carver, who happens to be from Eastside, beams with pride when he hears this. Westside is leading early, and when Poot mentions offhand that Avon looks excited as hell, Herc hears this and tells Carver that Avon is here. Remember, the only picture of Avon that they have is from the boxing card, so none of them have actually seen him in person. Daniels gets notified, and he immediately gets a team down to the basketball game to follow Avon. McNulty thinks it's a waste of time since Avon won't have any drugs or guns on him. But Prez brings up a good point. We've been tracking this guy for 3 months. Don't you want to see what he looks like?
No Avon Barksdale if I fell over him in the street.
Prez is really sharpening up. Good for him. Getting a visual eliminates 90% of the mystique and mystery around tracking Avon in general. The JUCO hooper catching the alley and tapping out off the chin-up was insane, and the mood in the air almost feels like a peace treaty has been declared during a civil war. Even Herc and Carver are enjoying themselves and aren't interested in continuing their blood feud against Bodhi. Poot once again saying something incredibly dumb, basically tells Herc and Carver Avon is in the vicinity. This cements his status as the worst pawn on the board in this episode.
So it's now halftime and Westside is up 12. Avon is feeling good and talking shit to Prop Joe, but Joe seems calm. A bit too calm. He proposes that they double the bet to a clean 6 figures, so the loser pays 100 grand. Avon accepts, and Prop Joe then motions to a player on his bench. This dude hasn't played all game, but he smiles and gets ready for the second half. Oh shit. Also, side note, this guy is played by Silk, an &1 mixtape hooper in real life. Silk actually grew up on Baltimore's east side, so this is a pretty cool cameo. The rest of the task force pulls up and gets ready to tail Avon. The problem is they don't really know which one is Avon. The picture they have only helps if they can get right up to his face. Fortunately, Sidnor is sharp and he clocks Avon as the one in red, wearing a white visor and coaching the team. As this is going on, the east side is making a comeback. Silk is dribbling circles around the west side and scoring at will. Another thing I want to mention, they make a mistake in this episode on the scoreboard. At halftime, Avon's team is up 12, but they are the guest and Eastside is home. Yet when Eastside starts mounting their comeback, all of a sudden Eastside is the guest and Westside is home. It's a bit confusing, but the reason I want to clarify that is that on the final possession, the Westside is actually down 2. The JUCO hooper drives to the rim and gets mauled, but the ref misses the call, which then leads to a fast break dunk by Silk. Eastside wins by 4. After the game, Avon flips out on the ref, and the ref is so scared that he offers to put some time back on the clock and run the possession again. This enrages Avon even more, and he calls the ref a pussy for not standing up to him and then tells him to walk away. Look, I get what Avon is saying. As a ref, you gotta just own that you fucked up that call. There's no do-overs. You gotta man up and say I fucked up. But you can't blame the ref for not standing up to Avon. Everyone knows his reputation, and the ref just doesn't want to die.
Look, I don't want any trouble, okay? Ain't gonna be no trouble over no ball.
Anyways, the game is over. Eastside has now won 3 in a row, and Avon says things with Prop Joe are cool, but don't ever come to the west side for any non-basketball reasons, or else you'll get lit up like a Christmas tree. As Avon gets into his SUV, the task force sets up to tail him. It's a 5-man effort between Sidnor, Daniels, Herc, Carver, and Santangelo. but Avon proves to be too crafty.
1171, what's your status?
1171. Nothing on this side.
You couldn't have gone past us.
He sniffs out the tail and ends up driving right by Daniels, taunting him in the process.
Losing Avon is a deeper sign that Daniel's idea of nabbing Avon but not digging any deeper is pure fool's gold. At the end of the day, Avon is a prideful guy who is very much still the king of the neighborhood. Whether it's him giving it to the ref in a way that would have made Bobby Knight blush or fooling half the investigation team, he's got the upper hand on the west side and will let you know it. On the other hand, the overconfidence he shows during the Prop Joe wager might give us a hint in one of his weaknesses as well. Sometimes he just gets a little too gassed up on himself.
While the basketball game is going on, Prez catches a pertinent convo on the wire about a re-up. The problem is the rest of the team is busy. Lester and Kima are interrogating Shardene, and everyone else is at the game trying to catch a glimpse of Avon. There's no one on the rooftops watching the payphones, so legally they can't confirm that the conversation is coming from a Barksdale gang member since they have no visual, but McNulty breaks the rules. He just logs that Sidnor was on the rooftops watching at the time. Prez gets a little bit nervous about that.
Everything Prez has learned from Lester has altered his instincts a bit. Some of Prez's character is supposed to be mirrored by co-creator Ed Burns' own experience with the BPD. You can see the conflict painted on his face. McNulty has been too chill for a while now. You know what that means? He's due for one of these bending the rules moments that he's so famous for. When his ego senses the possibility of cracking a case or making real gain, the ideas of rules and directives dissipate in the wind.
McNulty tells Lester about the re-up combo on the wire, and he thinks they can figure out where the new stash house is. Problem is, nobody was watching the payphone, so they don't know who was talking, but obviously Lester doesn't care. He's down to break the rules to catch the criminals as well. McNulty and Freeman then chat with Daniels. So far, the money trail is revealing a lot. Barksdale is involved in 4 front companies buying up all types of properties. Orlando's club, an apartment building, a funeral home, and a bunch of warehouses and shops in downtown Baltimore. Avon has only had full control of the projects for a little over a year, and he's already making fuck you money. Herc and Carver confiscated 22 grand off Weebay the other day, and he didn't give a single fuck. McNulty runs some basic math. The $22,000 was just from one morning in the towers and the pit. If you include the avenue corners, you're probably at 30. If you include the nighttime, that amount doubles. So you're looking at daily revenue of 60K, which means 20 to 25 million revenue for the year. You subtract 20% for operating costs, drug re-ups, lost drugs, confiscated cash, etc., and you're still clearing $1 million profit a month. This is back in 2002, by the way. Holy fuck. In addition to property, the Barksdales spend a lot on political contributions. They've donated 75 grand in the last month, all from the front companies. This news terrifies Daniels.
Yeah, and I think one of the things that separates The Wire from literally every other show I'd seen up until this point that involved organized crime was that they really get into how deep the corruption runs and how tangled the money web is. McNulty studying Daniel's face as all of this goes down is the cherry on top for me. The cinematography in several of these backroom discussion scenes takes the tension to the next level. Lester pleads to Daniels to follow the cash, but will it amount to anything?
Daniels then calls Herc and Carver into his office. The cash they turned in only amounted to 15K, but they caught a wire combo where the Barksdale boys mentioned that they lost 22K.
We got hit by a 22. 22? That's all. Alright.
So it looks like our boys did end up skimming 7K off the top. Daniels tells them that they have until tomorrow morning to return the cash. When he leaves though, Carver gives Herc a death stare. Carver didn't steal the money, so he thinks that Herc did it, even after the combo they had earlier that day. Except Herc swears that he didn't steal the money. The two frantically search the car and they realize that some of the money fell into the wheel well when the bag broke. So these two dumbasses almost got into trouble not for thievery, but for stupidity. And obviously Daniels would never believe their explanation.
Yep, what we have here is a slightly convoluted boy who cried wolf scenario. Based on prior bad behavior, these two are the prime suspects for skimming now that our boy Mahone is off the streets and slinging smut tapes. Poke would not have the guts to pull this alone.
Alright, now let's shift our focus to Omar since he plays a pivotal role in the most exciting scene in this entire episode. We first see that Omar's relocated to a new hideout, a vacant house where he uses some tape to keep the door shut. He's already lost his entire crew, and it's a lonely scene as Omar eats alone.
Omar also showing balance and maintaining a pretty ripped physique while also dining on fast food and Mountain Dew on the regular. Gotta respect a man who knows a cheat day. The gum or tape wedged in the door just piles on the image we have of Omar as a survivalist. We've seen him as both the hunter and the prey by this point in the show. It's an exhausting thing to have to flip between those two modes repeatedly. to constantly watch your back and dip into isolation like this.
Later on, we see Omar boldly walking into one of Avon's territories in broad daylight, ripping a cig while toting his signature shotgun. The neighborhood clears out immediately, and Omar walks right up to one of the houses where the dealers are hiding and demands payment. Now the guys inside tell Omar to leave since they got the MAC-10 on them, but Omar gives zero fucks. He says he'll be back every single day and he'll kill them all if they don't pay up. A trash bag full of drugs gets dropped out the window, and Omar calmly collects his payment. Not bad for a couple minutes of work. Also, I gotta say this looks like the pit, but I don't see the orange couch or D, Bodie, or Poot there, so my guess is this is another nearby area that the Barksdales control.
This walk-up might be one of the most widely circulated Omar clips around, and I get why. It's just sick. The big bad wolf illusions aren't the only time we've seen Omar connected to fairy tales and nursery rhymes.
You need to open this door, man, for huff and puff. Come on now, by the hairs of your chinny chin chin.
Given the signature Farmer in the Dell whistle, to me this makes him feel more larger than life than he already is. Similar feeling to the failed Stash House bust when we have the little girl looking on behind the clotheslines. It feels like every time we get a child's perspective on what goes down in these scenes, it gives another shot of humanity to the scene and the show in general.
Omar then brings the stolen drugs to Prop Joe. Apparently the bag contained $4,000 worth of drugs, and Omar offers it to Joe for free. All he wants in return is a way to get in contact with Avon. Prop Joe gives out Avon's pager number as well as the code Weebay uses to identify himself, which is 07. It's a great deal for Prop Joe. He gets $4,000 worth of drugs for free. If Omar somehow takes Avon out, then the West Side territory frees up for Prop Joe's people. And since he's only given out a pager number, Prop Joe isn't doing any dirty work that could get him in trouble with the police.
I've always loved this line.
Not his day, is it?
And truthfully, it isn't. Avon takes a ton of L's throughout the episode, and it makes you think a little bit about the combo he had with Dee at the hospital earlier in the season.
The thing is, you only got to fuck up once.
Later on, Avon is at Orlando's counting money. It's closing time, and as the ladies start heading home, Weebay goes on a food run. Omar is nearby at a payphone down the street, and he pages Avon with an emergency message using Weebay's code. Avon thinks it's Weebay messaging him, so he steps outside to take a look since Weebay just left. Not seeing anything, Avon goes back inside. Omar now has confirmation that Avon got the message, so he dials Avon's pager again, sending a 911 message. This time, Avon goes outside to the payphone right in front of Orlando's and dials Weebay's pager. Omar starts walking up to Avon, getting ready for another ambush. Weebay returns just in time and announces to Avon that he got him some cheese fries. When Avon turns around to respond to Weebay, he notices Omar raising up and just manages to dive behind a car as a flurry of bullets fly. Avon showcases some elite athleticism here, going fully parallel and covering some serious ground on the dive. Weebay is always ready and immediately draws his gun and starts firing back. It's round 2 between Omar and Weebay, and this time, Weebay gets the best of Omar, catching him with a bullet to the shoulder, forcing Omar to get the hell out of there. In fairness to Omar, he's standing out in the open while Weebay has cover, but this really shows just how elite, fearless, and dangerous Weebay is. Most drug dealers are so afraid of Omar that they won't even engage in a shootout with him if they have a MAC-10. Weebay nearly got killed in his last shootout with Omar, yet he shows zero hesitation in going right back at him for round 2. He even wins this round. This is why Avon keeps Weebay so close. He saved Avon's life here.
Yeah, it's very true. As we come to know as the show goes on, Weebay is the ultimate soldier. Omar has this Icarus moment here and flies too close to the sun. He's trying to pull these moves off a little too close to each other. It's only been days since Stinkum's murder. However, Prop Joe's alliance makes this the perfect opportunity, and we know Omar wants this over quickly. You take out Avon and maybe enough chaos results that Prop Joe can take over more territory and guarantee you some kind of safety. Avon evades death, but this shows us that he's human and isn't some untouchable force of nature. We've never seen so many moments in one episode where he's on the ropes or at a disadvantage. Same goes for Omar as well. He's in a much different position power-wise than he was earlier in the episode.
Okay, so we've covered most of what happens in this episode. Let's quickly touch on what Dee's been up to. Dee finally gets a chance to talk to Wallace and see how he's doing. Wallace is done with the drug game. He's keen on going back to school, even though he's 16 and would be forced to start as a freshman. Dee sees Wallace as a smart kid with a good heart, so he supports this decision and hands some money to help Wallace out.
The school conversation gives some season 4 vibes. We'll get there when we get there, and I cannot wait. Dee's reaction is very unique. It's a carryover from last episode's commentary. Wallace even thinks that Dee is pulling him back into the game when he first pulls the stack out. Imagine having your worldview so twisted by the age of 16. It also shows how uncommon a dude like Dee is in the game.
Dee also tells Bodhi and Poot not to worry about Wallace anymore. Poot does end up seeing Wallace buying drugs, but he listens to Dee and he lets him walk without saying anything. Okay, let's finish the video out by checking up on our boy Bubbles. We first spot him and Johnny in the pit, waiting for tester vials to be given out. We actually see the boy who took the shotgun shells to the knee when Omar robbed the pit. I think his name is Sterling, and he seems to be doing okay. Sure, he's on crutches, but he's lucky to even have his leg after taking that type of shot. We see Waylon there as well, and both Bubbles and Johnny are like, oh hey, look who it is, we knew he was full of shit. When Bodhi pulls up with the testers, Johnny recognizes him and dips out before things get worse. Bubbles stays and picks up some vials, then chats with Waylon. Apparently Waylon isn't here for any drugs. He's here for his nephew. The boy is young, only 24, but already a pure fiend. Waylon wants to help him, but he says you can't be helped until you hit rock bottom, and the boy hasn't hit that yet. Waylon recognizes Bubbles from the addiction meeting, doesn't judge him at all, and they shake hands and formally introduce each other.
I think it's pretty telling how cynically Johnny approaches Waylon's appearance in the pit too.
Check it. A man who wants to get high more than he wants to get clean.
Like on the inside, maybe there's just a little resentment toward him in the idea of recovery. Or maybe it's that he sees using as better than the idea of giving it all up to go clean. Waylon has some Jedi-esque wisdom on addiction and recovery. Steve Earle, who plays Waylon, battled addiction in real life, and he's got a little southern swagger to him. He's actually a country music singer on the side too.
Later on, Bubbles runs a risky solo operation where he steals some drugs from a dealer by using a fishing hook. He nearly gets caught, but manages to hide while some other poor soul catches a brutal beating. It's a triumphant score, but also such a close call that Bubbles is deeply rattled. To make matters worse, the drugs are fake.
Fucking Arm & Hammer.
So Bubbles and Johnny can't even get high. Bubbles is angry, realizing that he risked his life for fake drugs.
First time I watched this scene, I thought Bubbles was for sure getting stomped out right after. He might not be injured, but it sure looks like there's a definite psychological toll from the tricks and thievery required to constantly have a fix on hand. Excellent bit of writing whenever there's a Bubbles and Waylon interaction, and Bubbles clearly has all of Waylon's advice or commentary playing on a loop in the back of his mind afterward. Now Bubbles is up against the clock. He has to make a move to score, or he accepts withdrawal and everything that comes with that.
This soul-searching moment prompts Bubbles to visit his sister in the burbs. He tells her he wants to get clean, but his sister ain't buying it at first, since clearly this has been something he said a million times. But blood is blood, and his sister hands him a key to the backdoor basement. Bubbles is forbidden from coming upstairs, but there's a sofa for him to crash on. Later on that night, Bubbles is going through major withdrawals on the couch, but rips cigs to try and stay focused.
Waylon's words and Bubbles' near-death experience start to really prevail on him by this point. His sister has been burned before by this kind of declaration, and you can tell by the pain in her eyes that she means business when she says stay downstairs. The NA meeting Waylon is running earlier in the season is essentially a community/family connection to help people get clean. By having his family at least a little in his corner again, Bubbles might have a better chance at sobriety. I love that moment where he looks at the one-day chip and smiles to himself as he's undoubtedly going through some hell.
Alright, that does it for our episode 9 recap. Appreciate all of the love you guys have been showing. If you enjoy this type of content, like and subscribe. We're going to be delivering way more. Stay tuned.